Greetings, fellow armchair Imagineers. Tiki here.
And BlueDragonFive.
And Jacob Wile, too.
And welcome to a very special part one of our Fantasia retrospective, talking about Fantasia 1940, Walt Disney's original seminal artistic masterpiece. Tonight, on Talking Mr. Banks. All right, man, oh man, how you guys doing?
Okay.
I'm doing fine. I'm doing fine. Might potentially have bronchitis, but I'm fine.
Jacob, you have an excuse, but Dragon, come on, Dragon, let's hear a little more pep in your voice. How you doing, Jacob? I'm sorry, how you doing, Dragon?
I'm fine.
This is going to be like one of those amusement park, like, how you guys doing? Woo, come on, you can do better than that. I said, how you doing? Woo! All right, enough fooling around. We're here to talk about Fantasia, the original 1940 masterpiece. We're going to go round table and discuss our nostalgia for the movie. And I shall go first. Guys, this movie has always been very enigmatic going back to my childhood. I remember being very fascinated and kind of scared and intimidated by this movie at the same time. Not the least with it being the shadowy orchestra, like right at the very beginning. This movie has a very serious, somber, like ominous tone to it, all the way through in some ways. It's like walking through an art gallery. You're going to see certain images that are going to make you smile. You're going to see certain images that are going to fill you with hope. You're also going to see certain images that are going to throw you off, make you uncomfortable, and make you scared. That's what Fantasia is. So for me, I really just dove into that as a kid. And I'll always remember the great Deems Taylor introduction where he's describing, like imagine you're sitting down at a concert hall and you close your eyes and you start to visualize the music that you're hearing. And I'm like, yes, he explains it so well. And of course, Fantasia just, to this day, I think it might be visually and just artistically my favorite Disney movie. It's certainly not the best Disney movie narratively, but obviously that's not the focus of this film. I think just from a pure artistic standpoint, this has got to be Walt Disney's masterpiece. All right, who wants to go next?
Okay, I guess I can go next. My childhood, I never really watched this. Funny enough, I actually had the VHS when I was younger. The big black one, you know what I'm talking about? The big black box of the VHS.
Was it the one where it just had Sorcerer Mickey on the cover?
Yep.
Oh yeah.
Yep.
Oh yeah.
That was the one. It was like for years. My family had like a big VHS collection, but that was just one that I never touched. Mainly until one day I decided to give it a try, and as you said, like the name, just the look of it, just kind of fascinated me, but also kind of kept me at bay. It's like I don't know what to expect from just this. Like Fantasia music, classical music. What is this? And being a child of short attention span is like, because when I was younger, a lot younger, when actually watching them, a lot of my thoughts was like, ooh, pretty colors and moving pictures.
Right. Honestly, that's still kind of how I view the movie.
But the first thing, but when I started, the first thing I see was like just the eerie blackness, and suddenly the orchestra coming out of nowhere. I was like, this is the movie?
Mm-hmm.
Like what? No logo, no nothing.
Right.
And after a while, I just decided to shut it off and put it up for a while because, I wasn't into that kind of thing just yet. It wasn't until many, many years later when I decided to give it a try after everybody said how great it was and all that. And I instantly fell in love with it because at that point I also just started, before Fantasia, I started developing a love for classical music. Ever since I took a music class, I fell in love with classical music.
Mm-hmm.
And then also when I got back into animation, I remembered Fantasia, which was both. And I instantly fell in love with it when I watched it. And I'm still in love with it to this day, even after watching the version on Netflix.
Oh yeah.
Which
Oh, yeah.
instead of Deems Taylor is Corey Burton's narration.
Wait, what?
Yeah, it was Corey Burton. Corey Burton had to redub it. Go to the voice
I knew
quality.
it sounded like Corey Burton. I knew it.
Really? Wow.
So he did dub it.
Yeah, it's like he dubbed a version of it, and it's the version they've been using since.
Wow,
Original
I'm kind of
voice track-
flabbergasted by that.
Yeah, because Tiki and I had a conversation. I told him how much he sounded like Corey Burton. They said, "Oh no, it's Deems Taylor."
It
it's like,
sounds
it might not
so
be the
much
last-
like Deems Taylor, though. I mean, props to Corey Burton, man. Like, he is,
Yeah,
that guy's just
Corey
a
Burton sounds
master.
Corey Burton sounds like Paul Frees too. So
Oh, of course. We all know that.
Well, Corey Burton's great. He can do any voice.
it's like, I mean, I don't know if that's the version they used on Netflix, but I mean, I believe it is. But I do know he dubbed at least a version of it because the voice checks were deteriorating.
Okay, right on. Right on.
But yeah, even watching it today, I mean, my interest in it have changed a little bit because it didn't. I still love it though, even know what I mean.
Mhm.
I still see why it's considered one of the greatest movies they've ever made, at least in terms of animation. I mean, that alone is enough to fall in love with the movie.
Sure, sure. Okay, Dragon.
Okay, for me, very simple. Way back in the day, I too had the famed VHS tape, as many of the Disney films back in the day, and of course, very intriguing cover. You check it out. I got to tell you, when I was young, I was a little lost on me. When I was young, it wasn't gleaming onto as much as I was something like the other VHS tape, Mask of the Phantasm. You know, wasn't exactly as electric as that. I'm just saying that was like also like another black VHS tape that was really intriguing as well. I'm saying out of the two of them, one stuck a little bit more. Regardless, I was. It looked impressive back then. Of course, honestly, the thing that still sticks to me today, and again, just the box art and everything. The Mickey, the Sorcerer's Apprentice section, of course, is kind of the big kind of flagship of it, and it's flagship for a reason. It's really good. Mm-hmm. So aside from that, really, initially when I was younger, I was watching it, it didn't really stick with me. It was like, yeah, okay, this is nice, but it's kind of taken a while. And years later, and I kind of have the funds, it just kind of, I forget the circumstance, just kind of fell into my lap somehow. It's kind of had, eventually I had gotten Fantasia on DVD and Blu-ray. I can't quite remember how, like the combo pack. And it's like, I watched it. And honestly, this viewing, it had been years since I've seen, I've seen everyone, we've seen segments of it now and again, of course, but we never, watched it from start to finish. It's been ages since I got that VHS tape, watching it start to finish. So eventually I get that combo pack. And I watched it, and it was an experience, again, older and fully appreciating. It's like, oh my God, I don't know what it was. It was like the perfect atmosphere, everything when I was watching. Sitting down, I guess they turned the nighttime outside, just kind of.
I think I'm glad you mentioned that. I think this is very much a movie to watch at nighttime.
Yeah, I mean, it was, it was at night, it was cool out, and I was just watching. It benefited the experience, and just the whole thing just felt like the experience I think it's going for with anyone who's watching it that I didn't really have back then, but I had during that one viewing. And it's still, again, honestly, because I didn't want to cheapen that viewing, it's been a while since I've watched it from start to finish because of that. And this is probably like the third or fourth time, honestly, I've watched it from start to finish for this. And again, on the whole, just occurs to me, this is you need to be in the mood for Fantasia.
Oh yeah, big time.
That's the thing. I think that definitely, yes.
I'm saying honestly, it's a movie that really benefits from surround sound and darkness.
Exactly.
I mean, I had to watch it during the day, so it probably ruined it a bit for me, but I still loved it nonetheless.
Right.
All right.
So yeah, it's definitely an experience. The Deems Taylor of it all. Again, it's kind of blow my mind with these little factoids here about the Corey Burton, Deems Taylor of it all. But I tell you, whether it's just Corey Burton doing an uncanny job sounding like Deems Taylor, honestly, I just love that kind of that professional kind of Corey Burton kind of as the composer voice. I just really, it was refreshing to hear Deems Taylor just saying, "Oh my God, this guy! I buy into the credibility of this man so much by the quality of his voice, speaking about about music and animation. Oh my God, this guy's selling me so much." So.
Okay, so let's get into the background, gentlemen. 1936, Walt Disney and Leopold Stokowski sit down for a lunch, much in the same fashion that the Pixar lunches happen. This was, Walt Disney was talking about going all out on a lavish Mickey Mouse short set to a fully orchestrated, like, basically this was going to be kind of like the culmination of the, Mickey Mouse sound cartoons, where it was going to be like all color, like, using like the modern techniques like multiplane and everything. And he wanted a full orchestra of Mickey Mouse in The Sorcerer's Apprentice, which of course led to the short we know and love today, arguably the most iconic rendition of Mickey Mouse. But of course, Leopold, he was like, you know what? It would be interesting if we did a full feature of this. And so that really sparked Walt's interest. Walt Disney's a man where he hears a good idea, he'll really leap on it, he'll really get invested in ideas and enriched in culture, and he got really enriched in the classical music culture and the art culture as well, because that's the thing with Fantasia. This is not a cartoon. Fantasia, out of all the Disney films, is art, especially in Walt Disney's eyes. Now, of course, Fantasia went through a whole bunch of developmental nightmares. Different segments were cut and, of course, reused, like stuff like the Blue Bayou and Bumble Boogie, which we'll talk about later in this Fantasia retrospective, reused for different other things. And ultimately, the 8 shorts they settled on were packaged together with Leopold Stokowski conducting the music. Now, the interesting thing about Fantasia is its development history is almost as equally fascinating as its release history. And this is the big kind of meat of the background with Fantasia. So Walt Disney developed Fantasound, which was essentially a predecessor to surround sound. And Fantasound was to be installed in all the theaters that were to play Fantasia. Walt Disney was kind of a perfectionist, and he didn't want his film played without this, this new sound system that he made. This essentially led to Fantasia being a traveling roadshow in its first release. And of course, because Fantasia was to that date the most expensive thing the Disney Studios had ever produced, it led to the original box office run being a huge, embarrassing critical flop for the studio. Over time, they would re-release Fantasia through the 1940s and 50s, and, it would catch on, and it would kind of, regain some of it more and more as time went on. But of course, the big re-release that really caught Fantasia into the stratosphere and sort of solidified it as a classic was the 1969 re-release, which obviously fun with the culture at the time, resonated with the culture at the time with the surrealist imagery and the artistic qualities to it. And I feel like from that point forward, it really cemented itself into pop culture. And so Fantasia is a really interesting specimen that it took longer than most of the other Disney animated classics to really cement itself. But once it did, it really stuck up there. And now I think even people who don't like Fantasia, who find Fantasia slow or dull, they can at least appreciate the artistry of it. So that's my little background, guys. Let's get into talking about the movie itself. We already brought up this guy, but let's go through him really quick. Mr. Deems Taylor, Dragon, you brought up, you really enjoyed this man's professionalism.
Yes, he's just the way Fantasia opens. So I'll just broadly, with Deems Taylor, just kind of cover the framing device of it all, if you don't mind.
Sure.
The framing device of it all, I love the stage, I love the lighting, the fact that we have Deems Taylor kind of giving us the history lessons here, and kind of giving us kind of the introductions to the shorts, to the performances that we're about to see take place. It's this red and blue staging. We have like the very intense red and blues. It's just it looks so well put together, so professional, and it's kind of
Fantasia is a movie that has an atmosphere that truly draws you into like a night at the orchestra. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and there's also kind of a little bit of an element of fun, because some of these, when we get to the intermission especially, there's some fun there. I won't say too much about it now, because I assume we're covering a little bit of that, right?
We can cover a little bit of it. Yeah, I don't want to spend too much time.
Yeah, there's not really much there. It's just anyway. Regardless, there's still like a little bit of fun there. We have like a few gags in between, but at the same time, it's trying to being taken serious in the medium back in the day, which is what Walt always wanted to do, and I think they achieved that very well.
Yeah, and of
Well,
course. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Jacob.
One of his animators with this more than anything at the time, even though it didn't seem like it. Basically, created a new form of media with a music video.
No, yeah, Jacob, you're absolutely right. That is this is like the early like Stone Age predecessor to the music video in a lot of ways.
I mean, let me say this too. I forgot where is my opening thing, just so I can get it in there. It's kind of like right before we start to get into each of these individuals. And there's that individual shorts. I feel I agree with Tiki to an extent that this feels like Walt's masterpiece. I don't necessarily think I think it's produced like a masterpiece. I don't necessarily think it is Walt's, like, if you had to pick one thing for Disney to be known for. I think it was made and it's viewed by Walt himself as his masterpiece. But I don't think, like, objectively it would be like kind of the thing I remember Disney for. But it's definitely produced absolutely like this is like the best thing he could have produced.
I mean, like I said, I think it's a masterpiece on purely an artistic level.
Yeah.
Obviously, there's narrative-driven Disney films that are going to have more of a cultural impact than this.
That's what I'm saying. The narrative of it all kind of has a lot of weight to it. It's kind of a hard. It feels like it's Disney's Dunkirk. That's what it is. You know, it's just these testing things. It is. It's very much serious. This is kind of the original version of what a Dunkirk would be. You know, a Dunkirk. You know, seriously, it's kind of what you'd have where, you know, we have like a director, a famous filmmaker in this case, just kind of testing the waters and saying kind of on that it's not really done at that time, and he's just kind of it's not really. It's not told in the conventional style of a story, but it's something new and entertaining and really impressive that we're all kind of processing. By the time we process, like, oh my god, this is high art. Like, oh my god, he kind of reinvented stuff. He's kind of like, do we really need to do everything the way we've done it before? Is there room for alteration and change? Which again, it's kind of it's kind of stuck at a foot in the door for the whole medium in a good way. It's like opening the door of like, hey, we can change up things a little bit. We can be bold. We can be brash. We can invent Fantasia. We can do all this stuff, man.
All right.
Yeah.
That's actually what I was originally going to say with the music video bit, and the fact that they didn't realize at the time. They pretty much just showed where, like, yeah, this is what animation can do, people.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's get into it with Toccata and Fugue in D minor, the most surrealist out of all these segments. I love how this segment is basically kind of a representation of what Deems Taylor was talking about in the intro of, you know, like, at first, like, imagine you're sitting down at the orchestra. At first, the orchestra is very present, but as you close your eyes, shapes and forms start to take shape. And this is very much what this is. You know, I love that we see the orchestra, you know, we see the silhouettes, and then it starts to get into the surrealism of it all. But then we still have, like, the strings and everything, and it all very much flows to the music. It's very... I feel like this is kind of like the thesis statement of Fantasia.
You know...
I think it's kind of funny that the opening piece is actually generally like stereotypically associated with horror, even though the rest of the film isn't, even though the rest of the music track isn't horrific at all. Like, you know, it's mainly because the opening's associated with Dracula.
Yeah, sure.
You see, there was another pass they did on this that never saw the light of day, where essentially we saw Bernard Herrmann wake up at the end, like, oh my god, it's all like, oh, gotta be chased by violins and string music, and John, I had the exact same dream.
Oh man!
But I tell you this: what's great about this, I don't think it's a standout compared to everything else that comes after it. You know, it's a musical warm up. It's a color warm up, which is kind of cool. Warm up with the colors, and then in the animations, like, again, not the most impressive, but what I love about it is that it's where kind of live action, where animation, and where the music all meet each other simultaneously. It's kind of like. It's like that's like it builds to that moment where they all kind of meet each other, which kind of shows you anything can happen in this performance.
That's one of my favorite moments in the whole film, actually, is Stokowski kind of conducting the wave of the sunset, you know?
It really sets the tone and introduction for the film itself.
And also, I just love how mysterious Stokowski is in this movie.
Oh, yeah.
You never see his face.
Well, my favorite moment in the movie actually is with Stokowski.
Like, he barely even says a word. I think the only words he ever says is like when he talks to Mickey.
Yep.
Congratulations to you too, Mickey. That's like his one-line dialogue.
Pretty much everything else is said by Deems Taylor.
Yep.
Okay, so moving on from that, we have the Nutcracker Suite. This is, I gotta say, guys, this is probably the one that I appreciate more as an adult than I did as a kid. Because as a kid, I really was drawn into Toccata and Fugue just for the colors and music and everything. And then I knew that Sorcerer's Apprentice was coming up, and of course every kid's favorite segment is Sorcerer's Apprentice. So Nutcracker was kind of like the middle where it's like, okay, this is kind of going on a little long. There's all these different segments. It's I didn't really like how this segment kind of like started and stopped every 2 minutes. It's kind of like a bunch of vignettes.
Yeah, that was noticeable, yeah.
However, I think rewatching it, I really do like the vignette quality to it. I mean, it's different, but I think it works with the style of the ballet.
I love the ballet quality, how we have like all these different dance styles with the changing of the seasons. Like the two that stick out to me mostly, I'm most impressed by turning the flowers into ballroom dancers. Basically kind of turning this, like turning flowers you would see like turned upside down in the water and kind of see them personified as like kind of dancers, set the music. That to me is the most kind of impressive feat from an animation standpoint. Like something you can kind of that almost that John Lasseter kind of turning animates into characters in terms of like turning the natural world into a character, which is really cool. However, there's some segments like the hypnotic fish. Well, it looks cool.
Okay, I agree. The fish is easily the weakest segment of this.
That's what I'm saying. I think honestly, that's the thing. I have a lot of stuff in Fantasia, but let's just say mainly here is I think some stuff it could have been. Again, the music's amazing, of course, and I feel maybe we taken some of the stuff out, some of the additional segments within segments out, and just kind of shortened them a little. It wouldn't have hurt the movie.
Well, that's the tricky thing, though, because you're working with classical music, and you don't want to cut out segments of the classical music because it's all supposed to flow into each other.
That's true. And at the same time, though, I mean, you can still, like, literally, they have, like, kind of, again, these are portions of the saying where I feel like they could have just somehow kind of, like, spliced them together in a way. But, again, it's kind of an iffy territory. But, the Russian Flowers dance, while it is great, it's just kind of it feels just kind of like, okay, we ended the segment. Hey, here's another one. It just kind of pops up, and it's fun, but it just kind of pops up.
I like how the Russian Flowers dance just sort of like pops up and then freezes again. I really like that technique, actually.
Right.
Because it's like a big burst of energy in the middle of the segment. Jacob, your thoughts on Nutcracker?
I thought it was interesting. I mean, Waltz of the Flowers is one of my favorite pieces of classical music, so it was pretty cool to see that set to... Even though, ironically, it was one of the few scenes of the short not to have flowers in it.
Right.
Well, the one that actually has flowers in the title doesn't have flowers in it. So, yeah, it was the final piece. It was the final piece of the of the Tchaikovsky
the snowflake
segment.
one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, ironically, yeah. So, hey, honestly, I mean, that part made it enough for me because that is one of my favorite pieces. So
for sure,
I really like the Nutcracker in general. So I really did like seeing it set to all this. I mean, it's amazing how they're able to get away with showing nearly completely nude figures just by showing them featureless. Ironically,
well, actually, they do show features later on.
Well, yeah.
Oh, we'll get to that. We'll get to that. Save that, Dragon. Save that.
What I'm just saying, it's kind of funny that they're able to get away with it just by making them featureless here.
I mean, this is truly like one of the most adult Disney features where this really wasn't meant for kids.
Exactly.
Yep. One thing too, one visual always stuck out to me with this on the rewatch is just still blown away by. I love how the kind of the dew on the spider webs kind of turns into like stars against the night. It's like a really cool looking shot.
Oh yeah, that was great.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, good stuff all around.
I mean, you can tell the animators push themselves through this.
I also just think this short kind of sets the precedent for Fantasia music being like very unconventional to what you would think of when you think of the segments. Like as Deems Taylor says, like the Nutcracker is nowhere to be found. The only thing left of him is the title.
Which I think was a smart move.
Oh yeah, I think so too. Yeah.
No.
Because if they did like a literal interpretation of the songs and their meanings, it would be kind of boring.
And again, that's the fun of that's fun of kind of the Deems Taylor stuff. We can have a little fun with it in dialogue. We're not going to like be over the top with the comedy.
Yeah, like in Fantasia 2000, which we'll discuss when we get to Fantasia 2000.
Well, those poor cameos.
Cameos. The sad thing is, literally each one of those cameos would have made a decent host in their own right. It's just stick to one.
Yep.
Okay, so Jacob, speaking of kind of telling the narrative of the piece of music, da 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 da. So Jacob, yes, this is the one segment that truly does kind of tell the story of the music.
Yeah, that is true. I mean, sure, it translates it with Mickey, but I do kind of agree. I said most of the time it'd be boring.
Of course, of course.
I rescind that.
I'm not trying to call you out. I just thought it'd make a good transition.
I know.
Something.
Go ahead, Jack.
Sorry. Something really important we got to hit up with this is that this is a part of the reason. I think you correct me if I'm wrong here. This is an additional reason for Fantasia here is that they want a way of kind of reintroducing Mickey Mouse. It's kind of Mickey Mouse's cinematic debut in a way.
It was Mickey Mouse's cinematic debut in terms of being in a feature film. I mean, of course, he was always in shorts, but yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean, like in a feature film.
Yeah. Sure.
It's also the first time to showcase this new design.
Yeah. As a winner of a design, I mean, look at this. It's a classic Mickey Mouse design.
I would say this is probably the most popular, if not the most iconic Mickey Mouse design.
Certainly.
It's pretty much the standard.
For sure.
And it has a really good moral to it. The whole, getting in over your head and no shortcuts. The kind of a good morality tale. Like, hey, don't take any shortcuts. Do things the right way.
And we of course can't forget to mention Yen Sid.
Yep.
I love the design. Yen Sid might be one of my favorite designs in all of Disney.
I love the moment at the end with Yen Sid. There's that whole kind of that uneasy smile between two, like, oh, you screwed up. You're still my apprentice.
And of course, that's all meant to replicate like Walt Disney to his animators.
Yeah.
That half-cocked stare. That's all Walt.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
I also think this short does have a fair bit of dark imagery to it too.
Yeah, we have some great build and use of color. Of course, we have cool blues here in the dreamscape, and then we have like the red intensity during the murder of the broom.
I mean, that's one of the scariest parts.
The mop, sorry.
That's actually one of the scariest parts in it, from besides like Night on Bald Mountain.
Right, especially the mop being chopped up. Okay, just a precursor to the third podcast we're going to do here. I haven't seen the full Sorcerer's Apprentice movie. We're going to cover the Nick Cage Sorcerer's Apprentice movie. I have two big gripes with that movie right off the bat. A, the Nick Cage Sorcerer is not named Yen Sid. Why the fuck would they miss that opportunity? Why? And B, I saw the scene with the axe, and the scene with the axe is so pathetic compared to this. All right, I'm sorry. Just a little brief tangent. Okay, I also love the segment where Mickey's in the dream. I love all the comets moving around him and controlling the waves and everything. It truly is like a great representation of like cosmic power and, just limitless potential.
And of course, the water waking him up, that's also kind of a great little...
I mean, that scene itself with the water is one of the most, it's pretty much become like the most iconic scene for the movie itself.
I'd say so, yeah.
So, it's dazzling, a lot of fun visuals. And here's the thing I really want to hit with Sorcerer's Apprentice. My favorite moment in the entire movie is after Sorcerer's Apprentice, actually. I love the moment.
Mr. Skowski!
Yeah. It's such to me that is like that. It hits upon one of my favorite things watching the VHS tapes from the Disney VHS tapes when I was a kid. Seeing those moments, mainly from the Peter Pan VHS tape, which I've spoken of a little bit before. It's like that, and this had I just love the intersection. As a kid, this always blew my mind. The intersection of kind of animation and live action, where you had it with Walt interacting with Tinkerbell at the end of the Peter Pan VHS tape, telling you about the making of remember they worked that exact scene into Saving Mr. Banks.
Right.
And just here, this bit always stuck out to me as a kid, and then just every time I get such a kick at it when Mickey gets the shakes Stokowski's hand. It represents what the project's all about. It's so nice.
And forgive me if I'm mistaken, isn't that Walt voicing him?
Yeah.
I actually think this might be. No, I don't. I think Mickey and the Beanstalk is the last time that Walt voices Mickey.
I think you're right about that.
Okay.
That was before this, wasn't it?
No, that was after this. That was in Fun and Fancy Free.
Oh, you're right. What I'm saying is this Walt voicing him here?
Yeah, this is Walt voicing him. Yeah.
Oh,
Okay.
that's what I thought. And I know he's more famous for doing Chernobog, but we can't forget Bill Tilla's work on Yen Sid here.
Oh yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
I mean, obviously, Chernobog is a more famous product from this movie, but still.
No, I mean, I think Yensid is pretty famous too. I mean, yeah, Chernobog. I mean, I think
Isn't
Yensid
Jensen
is
a really big deal in the games?
Yeah,
to a
he was
certain
big.
extent.
Yeah, he's like one of the teachers in Kingdom Hearts.
Mm-hmm.
And also, he also made an appearance in Epic Mickey.
That's the thing. I thought he was like a big deal in Epic Mickey.
He didn't really play that much. He was just like more.
Yeah,
of
I
an
don't think
expositor.
I don't think he's a big deal in either Kingdom Hearts or Epic
Yeah.
Mickey, but I just think the character himself is like iconic just because of the connection to Walt and everything.
Yeah.
Okay.
He's basically more the expositor in the opening of Epic Mickey.
Sure. Which is pretty much the same thing in the opening of Kingdom Hearts 2 when you think about it.
Yeah, that's right. And again, Corey Burton.
Yeah.
I
Okay.
couldn't help.
Go ahead, Dragon.
Real quick, I couldn't help but also get a kick out of get more of a kick out of Sorcerer's Apprentice because once upon a time in the season that Tiki and I did talk about, they the Sorcerer's Apprentice factors in really big into that season.
That's true. That's true. It does.
And they do Tiki. They do the mops a lot better in that than they did in Sorcerer's Apprentice. So I'm not saying they do the acting, but they do everything else with the mops really well in that.
Mm-hmm. Okay, let's move on to the next segment, the Rite of Spring. Man, oh man. Oh god, this has always been the one that I've had the most mixed feelings about.
Yeah.
First
Tego.
Yep.
It's got a breathtaking opening shot.
It does.
Oh, yeah.
First of all, the one thing I want to highlight with this is I think out of all the musical selections, this is by far the weakest.
It doesn't pick up until we're at the volcano. Even then, it's like a little bit of a gap. Then we pick basically when we introduce the that's when. But again, it's like doesn't.
It's like the pace of the music just doesn't really work for the animation.
You hit it right on the head there, too. That's what it is. It's the pacing.
Yeah, I do like this is the thing though. I think just from a visual perspective, this might be the most stunning of all the Fantasia shorts because it does showcase. Go ahead, Jacob.
That's like the mightiest of them, like in terms of like how big the characters and they move.
Sure. But I mean, it literally it blows my mind just how much we literally cover millions upon millions of years of life in this short. Because we see like out in space, we're floating around in that great opening shot, Dragon. Then we go into Earth, we see all the volcanoes, we see we see life underwater, the little plankton type life forms slowly evolving into the lizards, and we see the evolution of the dinosaurs. And it's just a really, really spectacular kind of visual representation of ancient life. The problem is, like I said, A, the music's not really memorable, and B, it's just really, really slow paced and drawn out. Basically
the chime gag before it is more memorable.
Right. Of course, this inspired the famous Primeval World at Disneyland and some of the dioramas in Ellen's Energy Adventure at Epcot. So it's got some theme park roots attached to it.
So in addition to the evolution, which looked...
And some of the dinosaur designs kind of look like Land Before Time kind of took
a little bit. You're right. Especially the T-Rex and the shark tooth.
And also the baby Triceratops.
Mm-hmm.
In addition to the evolution, which is very honestly again the big stance of it are seeing the evolution unfold before your eyes, and of course the very brutal dinosaur battle at the end.
Oh yeah, which is definitely up there with the most famous segments of Fantasia.
Oh yeah,
basically due to its sheer brutality.
Yep.
Yeah, definitely. All right, so let's move on to the Pastoral Symphony. And this is one that just bored the
Tiki intermission. Real quick.
Oh, intermission, right. I'm sorry.
So the only thing I really wanted to highlight with the intermission.
Yeah, let's go back to Mr. Deems Taylor for a moment.
Yes. The main thing that hit was that we have this cute little all I have word for is it's a cute little demonstration of the soundtrack.
It kind of reminds me of like a pre-show that would be in an Epcot ride or something like that.
Exactly, and that's the thing. It's this cute little thing where he tells it, "Hey, don't be shy." He's a little shy, folks. He basically has the soundtrack demonstrate kind of working where how you animate sound, which is kind of cute. It's like, oh, that's kind of nice. It's a nice little, it's a little informative thing, and it's really all.
Yeah. Also, on certain DVDs, you can actually see the full intermission. And I actually really like this feature because it's basically 15 minutes of the Silhouette Orchestra just riffing and jamming with each other. And kind of just having a jam session and warming up and tuning their instruments. And really, I love that because it goes even more into the feel of, a night out at a concert. You know what I mean?
Yep.
That's actually retained in the Netflix version.
Sure.
And you can actually.
Well, no, Jacob. Actually, there's even more. From what I remember, I'm sorry, I'm skipping around here. Ugh. I'm sorry, Dean. No, yes. From the Netflix version, they have a little bit of it, but the DVD release that they have has a full 15 minutes of it. That's why there's certain copies of the DVD release that are 2 hours and 20 minutes.
Yep.
Okay. Anyway, so let's get into the Pastoral Symphony, the Beethoven number. Oh boy. This is definitely something that bored the crap out of me as a kid.
Yeah.
But I love it now. I really do love it now.
It's really interesting. I mean, definitely. You can definitely say it's a more accurate take on Greek mythology than Hercules was.
Yeah, but it's not as fun.
I mean, I do think it's I think Hercules and this both have pros and cons when it comes to the depiction of Greek mythology. Let's just say that much.
Yeah, I agree with that. I'm just saying this one's a bit more accurate.
I do think that this is fun in a lot of ways, though. I like how playful this short is.
Yeah, that I can contend with. Not contend, but agree with.
Mm-hmm. It's very relaxing. You know what I mean? It's just we're just going to go into this nice garden area. We're going to see some pretty colors. We're going to see some interesting characters.
I'm not wowed by it. I gotta tell you, me personally, I'm not wowed by it.
I mean, I'm not wowed by it either. Like I said, I think it's mostly just really relaxing, if anything else.
I mean, it's like in between the chaotic.
Of course, I think my favorite segment is the Bacchus segment, the god of wine.
Yep.
Who should be played by Jack Black if they ever make that Fantasia cinematic universe that the Nostalgia Critic teased?
Well, Tiki, let's not forget the most important god who didn't make the final cut.
Oh God, who?
The god of tea.
Oh God, no. All right. Let's not try to force in any in jokes here.
And I tell you, he looked identical to Patrick Fabian. I don't know why that is, but he just did. Anyway, no, let's get back on point.
Okay. I do think that this has a great sense of scale. Probably my favorite shots are the shots of Zeus throwing the lightning bolts from the clouds, and you see Bacchus running around on ground level. Those shots are really visually spectacular to me.
Oh yeah, that was really cool.
Of course, I think this has a fantastic ending with Apollo shooting the arrow of stars.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, it's just like the spider web in the beginning.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, right. Like I said,
that's one thing I love about this movie. Even with the 2D animation, it still makes you even to this day say, "Wonder how they did."
Oh,
that.
There's so many multi-plane shots in this. This is just like a showcase for the multi-plane camera in so many ways.
Yep. Hey, Walt, how do you want to say about this scene? What did I say previously? Multi-plane. Darn right. Use the multi-plane. We paid good money for that. It served us well. Use the multi-plane. Always be multi-plane users. How many times do I have to write that down? Anyway.
Right.
I'll probably use more colorful languages than that.
Well, yeah, sure.
I also really love the design of all the Pegasus in this feature, like the Pegasus and the Cupids. Like I said, I love
It's almost like what created My Little Pony before
Oh,
My
God.
Little Pony.
No, let's not go that far.
Yeah, I mean, this is a lot more classy than My Little Pony.
It's like, hey, do you smell the corporate sellout, or is that just me?
I'm just saying the whole design-wise thing.
Yeah, for sure. I do like the the pastel colors and everything.
It goes the whole relaxing vibe.
It's all very soothing, right. So, like I said, this is kind of like it's kind of like as when you're an adult and you like enjoy like a fine wine. You know what I mean? You're like, oh, you're sipping it and you're getting all the flavors. Like, ooh, I like that color. That goes good with the music. And ooh, those are good character designs. Ooh, that's a well composed shot. Like, this is the fine wine of Fantasia segments, which is appropriate given Bacchus. So, all right, so let's move on to Dance of the Hours.
Here we go.
Now, I've heard mixed things about this one, which is kind of surprising to me. Like, I feel like the hype over this one has kind of died down a bit over the years, but I still really like it.
Yeah, it's cool.
Yeah, I do like it.
I'll admit, there's one. Go on.
I was like, I admit that the story they set up kind of derails by the end, but still.
Well, one thing I do like is that it does kind of it is an accurate take on what the music was suggesting, which is, different segments representing different times of the day. Like, they get that really spot on, but of course they just do it with with the Disney whimsy.
It's still kind of there, but because they have to break it up and they have to explain it. But this honestly would be kind of a good lead-in to Tonight on Bald Mountain. That's kind of what.
Well, this is a lead-in Tonight on Bald Mountain.
That's what I'm saying. It still serves. I'm just saying, like, imagine this. Imagine if somehow they, could have, like, if you went from that, it's like you're completely taking out left field. Like, we go to night, we don't break it up explaining Night on Bald Mountain.
Okay.
I mean, again, it would be confusing, and that's why they didn't do it. But I'm just saying.
I mean, that would essentially make like the whole last third of the movie just one long short.
Yeah, I don't know. It would just be kind of like, again, like the progression to night, and of course night on Bald Mountain.
Of course,
but and
progressing with one final morning with Ave Maria.
Certainly, and I do like I like how each setting has kind of like something really unique about it. The hippos. They're very of course they're very graceful hippos despite their sizes. The elephants.
One of the most iconic Disney animals.
Of course, the elephants very very bubble heavy with their use. Very bubbly in personality and animation style.
And the fact that they're flying before Dumbo was.
Right. Yeah, that's true.
Man, I've seen everything. I've seen those elephants fly, boy.
But we still haven't seen whales fly yet, guys. But we'll get there. We'll get there soon enough.
Let's see. Also, the alligators, of course. I love the artful pursuit music.
I love how classy the alligators are animated.
Yeah, I love the cape reveal too. Like descending down the stairs with capes. It's it's a good old testament to ballet. This one.
It's almost like the Scarlet Pimpernel. It kind of reminds me of them. In a way, like, the famous swashbuckling heroes.
Right.
I mean, you could totally place these alligators in swashbuckling roles, and they would look out of place.
Like an Errol Flynn type.
Yeah, exactly, like Robin Hood.
Okay, that of course leads us into the most, I'd say, besides Sorcerer's Apprentice, definitely the most iconic segment,
easily.
Which is, oh boy.
The design.
Da, 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 da. All right.
Done.
No,
Okay.
We're done.
But one is actually set around Halloween, by the way. It's called.
It is. Yes.
It's kind of cool, which I kind of forgot about. Like, oh yeah, it literally is set around Halloween. But it's
2 words. 3 words. Praise Titla.
Of course, this one's it's most impressive. Out of all of them, again, it's between this and Sorcerers might be the most impressive. It's very impressive.
I mean, I think Sorcerers is more memorable, and I think if anything, one of the things we didn't hit on with Sorcerers as much that we probably should have is just how well Sorcerer is timed to the music. But this,
of course, the reason for that is because they had the animation first.
Sure. But this, I think, is definitely the most visually impressive.
Oh yeah.
Just the scale of it all, the effect of the ghosts, like the translucent ghosts and everything.
I love the various levels of darkness. So many different levels of darkness. The design of this guy, oh my god, it's very gothic in its design. And again, it kind of takes me kind of the stuff I've loved kind of from Batman. Very, very similar. Like all the kind of design work of like you'd have of it's like a few degrees away from being Art Deco. That's the thing. It's like very angular in its design. Just Chernobog, I think, is just so well designed. Any of these shots, honestly, he's so perfectly framed with the wings and everything. It's just this excellent design.
For sure.
Bill Tidley at his finest.
Yeah, absolutely. One of my favorite shots is all the ghosts passing through the noose.
Oh yeah, that just sets the tone itself as well.
Absolutely.
And the posing and the highlights too, like the blue highlights and all the posing too. That's because he's a character who's stationary through the whole thing, and yet he has to really make the most out of that.
And now we kind of forgot to touch on this with the Pastoral Symphony, but much like the Pastoral Symphony, this also originally had a lot of nudity in it. Some of those harpies had some very noticeable nipples as they flew across the screen in original cuts of this thing.
Somehow Ralph Bakshi kind of sneaked into the Disney studio.
Oh, God.
Funnily enough, that's still in the Netflix version.
Yeah, it is.
Oh, yeah, that's true. Yeah. It's the Pastoral Symphony stuff that they mostly cut out, I guess.
Yeah, it's like that's usually the one thing Disney tries to avoid nowadays is showing nudity, but surprisingly they kept that. I mean, considering how easy the visible nudity in this thing, it would be easy to edit out. They didn't.
I guess somehow in this volcano it was cold. I guess.
Oh, God.
I mean, you see those things; it'd be very easy to edit them out, but they chose not to for some reason.
I don't know. Maybe it just fits well with the horror tone. I don't know.
Or maybe it's because they're harpies.
Yeah.
No.
Let's see.
That's really something we should be focusing on.
Probably not.
But I mean, yeah, the build, like the kind of the scale, the build of all this is great. Like some bads about that, and just the idea. I love the lighting on the defeat of Chernobyl, or basically, the
yes, I love the animation on that too. How a creature of this size and magnitude is defeated so suddenly.
Yeah, just again seeing the light on him, just kind of weaken him, and then the best shot for me out of this whole thing is like when the wings turn into the mountaintop. Oh god, it's so beautiful.
Okay, and that of course leads right into the finale, which is Ave Maria. What a wonderful closer. Like, as a kid, I basically tuned out after Bald Mountain, but now as an adult, I just love the contrast between Bald Mountain and this.
Yep.
They were chosen, as Deems Taylor pointed out in the opening of this, that's specifically why they were chosen. Because in terms of tone and composition, they're completely different.
I mean, they are different, but they do, it's like the morning contrasted against the night. I mean, I think it's kind of like a yin-yang sort of situation. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's what they were going for.
Sure. I love how I love the design of the figures and the glow of the lights and everything like that. Of course, this is like one big epic multi-plane shot. Basically, this whole short is like two epic multi-plane shots.
Yeah.
It's it's like going through the forest, seeing the procession, and then moving through the church, and then moving out of the church and seeing the sunrise. Like it's like literally two shots within the course of like 6 minutes. Like, that's incredible.
It's actually also one of the few times I've ever heard Ave Maria in English. Because most of the time it's usually sung in German or something.
So yeah, I want to highlight that last shot in particular. Like I said, just the moving through the church, out through the church windows, in through the hills as the sun rises is the last image of the movie. It's just super powerful, especially after the darkness that was Bald Mountain. It ends things off on such a triumphant light.
The perfect way to close the movie.
Mm-hmm. Although I do think that this is kind of controversial. I do think that Firebird honestly might beat it. I love Firebird, guys. We'll get into that when we get into Fantasia 2000, kind of teasing Fantasia 2000.
I've seen that. I just forget that. I'll have to rewatch it.
Firebird is fantastic. It's mesmerizing for me. Okay, anyways, guys, so we have reached the end of our Fantasia program here. Of course, we will be talking about Fantasia 2000 next time on Fantasia Month. Any final thoughts from you two regarding Fantasia?
Well, Fantasia for me, the original one, and we'll see how 2000 stacks up against it. But to my recollection, I feel rewatching Fantasia, I feel a few edits. I wish you had the runtime of 2000. That's the thing. I wish you could interchange a few qualities between both Fantasia movies in certain respects.
It's kind of funny. Like, I feel like Fantasia is too long and Fantasia 2000 is too short.
That's the weird thing. I wish there was in some weird way, I wish you kind of blend the two together.
We need a Goldilocks situation here. We need the just right version.
Exactly. And what I'm saying.
Do you need like a Fantasia 2020?
Yeah, right.
Yeah. And what I'm saying is, if somehow we could have blended what we got with those two in the end, again, it was kind of learn from things. They changed some things, and if again in a third version, they could have and can compile just kind of this perfect. Because nothing compares to the majesty of the first Fantasia. That's the thing. You have the majesty in the animation, kind of the historical kind of magic of the first one.
Dare I say though, I think Fantasia 2000 is overall. If anything, it's a far more energetic film than the original Fantasia. It's far more engaging.
Well, yeah, it wasn't.
What?
Go on.
I'm sorry. Did I cut you off? I'm sorry.
I wasn't saying it was better. I was just saying the kind of the production of the first one is kind of historical.
No. And that's what I'm saying. I'm kind of just kind of transitioning into comparing the two. Like I said, I think
another thing that's different is that they obviously allow the individual directors to showcase different styles in the second movie.
Yeah,
definitely. I mean, I do think there's some sense of different styles in the first movie, but the second one, it really, takes off, and each short looks radically different from each other.
Which I think actually suits it better, but that's nothing. Not dig into this one, of course.
Of course.
I mean, this one kind of suits the musical choices to stick with the same style.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. I don't know. I feel like maybe a few edits or a shorter runtime somehow I think would have benefited this movie in the long run. I mean, again, it still holds up. It holds up historically. I don't know necessarily if it holds up. Again, nothing you have to really be in the mood for is what I'm always going to come down to on this first one. That you need to be in the mood for it. You need to really be able to kind of sit down and enjoy and bask in the experience. But
I feel like that's kind of like how all fine art works, though. Like, this isn't a popcorn movie. You know what I mean? This isn't a movie that you can just sit down and just be entertained by from beginning to end whenever you pop it in.
Exactly. So I'm just saying, if they wanted to make it kind of a little bit more like maybe those edits would have to be made, but it kind of stands as it does, and you have to roll with it. So it's it's a testament to quality animation that Walt Disney was capable of, and he had the vision to let's do something really cool.
Okay. All right, guys. Well, thank you so much for watching, and stay tuned next time when we talk about Fantasia 2000 and break down the majesty of Bette Midler's reference. I'm sorry, is it Bette Midler? Is it the melting clock guy lady?
Do you mean Bette Midler?
I don't know.
I mean, if you're referring to Bette Midler, then yes, it's Bette Midler, Tiki, but I don't.
Wow, that I should have checked my references there. Okay, so prepare for the majesty of the melting clock guy reference next time when we cover Fantasia 2000 on Fantasia Month.